Many of you have come to the comment section and asked why I have had to turn the channel here at YouTube over to Antarctica instead of continuing to cover the issue in Venezuela. I'm continuing to cover the issue in Venezuela at the Patreon side, and I know that a lot of people are against the monthly subscription, and if you can't afford it, that's not a problem. At the communities tab, I will continue to post pictures and basic descriptions of things that are going on, but for the in-depth video analysis, I have to do this basically because of Washington, D.C.'s sanctions. Now, YouTube has not directly been sanctioned yet, but YouTube's business model works this way, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware. Over here to the right, creators make videos. Viewers like you go and either like or dislike them, and then based on that, certain advertisers, if you're lucky enough as a creator to be monetized, will allow their ads to run on your channel. Now, if YouTube had its way, this would be the only thing that affected who was and was not monetized. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but they want to make money as much as you want to make money. But there's a problem. There are all sorts of businesses around the world, banks and different organizations that would love to sell Venezuela things. But they can't because they're afraid. What if we sell Venezuela something and then DC finds out and then they sanction us? What if one of our ads runs on the Florida Maquis and he's not reporting things in line with DC's narrative? They could sanction us for that. These are the people that keep YouTube going. And I know a lot of people think that YouTube should be free. Well, that's ironically kind of socialist of you, but they do need to pay the bills and they need somebody paying for the advertising. And when DC is just randomly sanctioning businesses and banks all over the world for not falling in line with its narrative, you can't blame them. You can't. And that's why I've had to do what I've had to do with my channel. It's a monetized channel. I was very blessed, but I did sign an agreement. I did put my name on an agreement that said, if you put out content that is deemed as controversial, that advertisers don't like, because they don't want to be seen as having endorsed controversial content, which is their right, we will not allow ads to run on those specific videos. I don't know how anyone who supports the current administration or calls themselves a conservative or calls themselves free market or promoting capitalism could disagree with this. Businesses have that right. It is a business. It is unfortunate that DC clamors on and on and on about free market will be the savior of this, that, and the other, but then 5 seconds later, they involve themselves in the free market, interject themselves. And here's the part that is very hard for a lot of people to hear. Channels like mine are a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of what goes on YouTube. And those at the top, those in charge, aren't going to risk losing Coke. They're not going to risk losing Pepsi. They're not going to risk losing big, huge advertisers over a channel like mine, for example, is technically, I set it up a long time ago as education or music. It's a tiny, tiny percent, 5% over here. Technically, it's probably could be seen as nonprofits and activism, which is less than 1%. So I'm not trying to defend them. They're just put in a very tough spot. And the sanctions are real. You can see for yourself what the effect of sanctions are. When DC decides they want to pick winners and losers, it's not the free market. It should be, but it's not. So, without any further delay, Antarctica. Something completely non-controversial, but interesting nonetheless. Now, I know many of you have not seen all of my videos in Antarctica and think that a lot of this is just, it's shadow and it's ear reaching and stuff. One thing that put all of that to rest a long time ago, and many haven't seen that video, was when we discovered these cable and tunnel structures in this region right here. What made them different is I would find these long, perfectly straight lines that ran either 0 to 180 or 90 to 270 all across this continent. Pardon the notification. And it was just very strange that all of these lines would be on those two vectors. But they were anecdotal. I'd find one here, one there, one over there. But then in this region, I found 6 of them in parallel like this that were crossing these 2 other ones. And something was revealed here. What we revealed is that the distance in between these was exactly 3 miles. Now, those who haven't been in the Navy wouldn't know the significance of that, but that's exactly 1 league. These are exactly 1 league apart, and when I went back through to find all of the different cable and tunnel structures, they began and they ended in multiples of leagues. The distances. It's a very ancient form of measure, and so what we're looking at here is probably something that might have been set up hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And there's a lot of things that can be missed, like I said, in perspective. This is what we did the last time. You look straight down at this, and you see just this vast sheet of white. There's nothing here. But of course, when you change your perspective, and you look at it from a different angle, all of a sudden, things look very different. What you see are channels. Some people might have looked at these and said, they're just breaks in the icebergs. Well, when you look at them closely, really they're breaks that have land bridges here and here. And that looks like a dock there. These are clearly constructs of some kind for whatever reason we don't know. And that's why perspective and time, all these different techniques that you can use, show things that you wouldn't normally see. Over here, I've labeled this subsurface tunneling structure because when it reveals itself in high res, and only a few areas down here do this, you begin to see something. Now, a lot of what you see when you look at this down here is just vast sheets of uninterrupted, perfect layers of snow, like over here to the right. It's just nothing. I'm sure a lot of you in the north that have woken up after it's been snowing all night and blowing over the fields, you can see just vast sheets of perfect white, undisturbed snow. But if there's any kind of a rise, any kind of a hiccup in the terrain underneath, you'll definitely see it for a long way away. So here we see something very odd. We see this large patch of perfect white, and then all of a sudden right here, in the shape of this tunnel, for lack of a better term, here's the right and here's the left of it, all of a sudden the snow just starts to be disturbed. And the width of it makes it very unlikely that it's natural. And then over here, the snow continues undisturbed. So you can follow and see that clearly underneath the snow here is something artificial. Because when you look in close, this is clearly some type of the top of maybe a tunnel that was built with some type of cobbling or brick or whatever they use the constructs for, and underneath there must be a source of heat that's causing certain areas to melt away in certain patterns. And I know those of you that have lived, in snowy environments and cold environments know what I'm talking about. you can very clearly see things through the snow that are different than the things around them. And this is just one of a great many that we have found. I'm going to scroll through here and see if we can find a few other things for some of the newer folks that maybe they hadn't seen before. Because there's just so many of them. I mean, there's 90-degree structures and paths and roads and trails. We'll try this one. Let's see if we have this set up for the right year. When you look in closely along the side of this mountain, you can see what look like ancient pathways and trails, because you can see these in areas we know to be inhabited around the world. It's very clear that there was at one time, if not now, traffic through these areas. You know, there were satellite photos that I think they revealed under the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, that was at one time the confluence of 4 rivers, even though those rivers are dried up now. Sometimes you just can't see things unless you get way, way, way back from it. One second, just scrolling through here. There was one specific one I wanted to show people. It was the fish one. I can't really find it at the moment, but let's see if this is it. Okay, it looks like this one's hidden in time. There we go. This was one of our biggest finds. This high-resolution image of what is very clearly the shape of some type of ancient animal that's been probably revealed due to the great amount of melting that's been going on down there. Another great tool that Google Earth Pro allows you to have is a line measure. So we'll go ahead and measure this real quick. And we will bring it down to feet. 640 feet long. I know that seems like it's probably out of the realm of possibility, but in the past we are finding all sorts of things that we didn't think could possibly be. So, anyway, I will leave it there, but trust me, there is a lot more to find down in Antarctica than what you might naturally think if you just look at things straight on. You guys have a great day.